Okay, so this concept where the king was directly, this idea where the king was directly threatened, okay, is called the in check position. Okay, it's in check position. So if I go through this game again, okay, so let's see, let's kind of play a game and give you a clear idea what I mean by that. Okay, so let's say, okay, we start this game and I'm going to make this move, the pawn move. I decide to move 2 squares, okay, and the opponent, the black side, now decides to move, let's say, 1 square for some reason. Okay, it can move 2 squares, but decide to move only 1 square, this pawn. Okay, now what I can do is, I got this bishop over there, so I can bring the bishop, because now there's a clear path for this bishop to fly through without any other of its own piece in the way, okay, or a black piece in the way at the moment, to go all the way up to that square. So you can go all the way up there and now over there. Okay, right, so it's actually the white bishop is over there. Okay, and it's over there, and if you can see, this white bishop is now threatening this king. Okay, look at that. It goes away, attacks the king over there. But of course, it can't do that move because it's black's turn now. Okay, so when the bishop actually threatens the king, okay, the king is in check. So any piece that threatens the king, okay, means the king is in check. So the king is in check because this bishop is threatening his king, and now it's a black's turn. So the black can bring this bishop, because there's a space there, and cover the king. Protect the king. See, it protects the king. So the bishop hasn't got a direct path to the king. It protects the king. So the king is no more in check. Okay, but of course, this bishop, white bishop, can decide to take this black bishop. So it takes over there. Okay, so this black bishop's gone. Now he's threatening the king again. Okay, the king is in check again. Now, what will happen is, there are two choices here. The king is in check, so he has to actually move out of check. It got to escape. And how is he going to do that? He can actually take the bishop, because remember, the king can move only 1 square at a time. So he can actually take this bishop diagonally. Alternatively, the queen over there can take this bishop. Okay, remember, the queen can move many squares, but in this case it can only move 1 square because that's only enough space for it to move. Okay, so now he's taken the bishop. So now there's no more threat for the king. The king is safe. Okay, so this is what I was trying to illustrate. So the king, when it's threatened, it is in check. Okay, now, so let's find all the different checks that the different pieces can give. Okay, let's say someone managed to the opponent managed to bring the king out somewhere. Just pretend is out there. Obviously, the king has to have an empty space. Maybe it managed to go all the way up there and to walk 1 square at a time, and somehow managed to get there. Okay, somehow managed to get there. So what's the different places? Let's say this was open at some point in time. So what's the different ways of maybe checking the king? Okay, so let's say it's a white turn now. So the white bishop can move over there, because on this is on a dark color square. So travels diagonally and move over there, and threaten the king that way, because diagonally. So it says check. The white side says check, to tell the black side that your black king is in direct attack. Okay, so in this case it's the white bishop attacking the king, or the white can move this knight in, for instance, 1, 2, 3, and then sideways over here. Okay, round there like a T. I was talking to you about. Okay, there, and the king is in check. How? Because if you look at it, it says 1, 2, 3. There it is, the landing square. So the king is in this knight's landing square. Okay, so the king is in check. But remember, it's the black's turn now to actually get out of this check position. Okay, so the king has to actually move somewhere else, because he can't reach the knight, because he can only move one square at a time. Okay, remember the previous time when the bishop was there and threatened the king with a check, the king can move one square at a time and can move one square diagonally, so he could have taken the bishop. So it's now out of check. Okay, but in this case where the knight was over there, okay, and it actually causes check to put the king, black king, in check. So it says 1, 2, 3, sideways check. The king can't take this knight because there is more than one square apart. So the king can never take a knight when the king is in check by that particular knight. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so if for some reason, if the bishop is over there, it's the white's move, and the white bishop was just placed over there. So it moved over there, then the black moved, and then the white bishop moved. That's a check. And the king can't take this bishop because this is more than one square away. Okay, it's not close to it. Remember, the king can only move one square at a time. So the king, in this case, has to actually avoid that check position by moving somewhere else, for instance over there. So it's not threatened by the opponents, the white's piece, any longer. Okay, or he could have moved over there to avoid it, or he could have moved over there. What he can't do, this king can't move there because it's already in check position. It can't move where it still remains in that check position, Okay, so that would be wrong move for this king to do. The king is not allowed to make that move. When it has a place for it to move to avoid that in check position, then it should move to those particular squares to allow to do that. Now, so the king can either move over there, or can move over there. It can actually move over there, or it can move over there. What it can't do is can't move over there because it's still be in check position. It can't move there; it's still be in check position. Okay, so once it's in check, it can't keep maintaining that in check position. It also can't move over there because now this white pawn is attacking this black king. Okay, and it's white's turn to move. Okay, so it can't actually put itself in a position where it becomes in check. Okay, so it has to avoid that. So which is what it does. Okay, so that's important. So put this all back again. And so similarly, let's say I bring the white king outside. So this rook, let's say the pawn is out of the way, so this rook can now kind of fly through, and it's this black's turn. So this black rook can go in there, and then say check because now it's attacking the king. Okay, but it's the white's king's turn to move, so he's got to avoid that in check position, so it can go over there, can go over there, or can go over there. Okay, but what it can't, or it can go over there, can go over there, can go over there. But what it can't do is stay on the same row. Okay, or rank as we call it. Where so it is because it still be attacked by the rook. So it will still remain in a check position. So it got to avoid the check position and it got to move out of the way. Okay, so that's important. So you can check the king with any of the pieces that you got in there, except a king can't check a king. Okay, so you can't actually bring a king over there. You cannot do that. Okay, you cannot bring the king next to each other. The kings cannot meet each other. Okay, but all the other pieces other than the king can actually give the opponent's king a check. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So that'd be a check. So I can check this king. Okay, so I'll have to say, the opponent will have to say check, so that I know I'm in a check position. Okay, it reminds me. Okay, even if the king doesn't, even if the opponent doesn't say check, I should realize I actually am in a check position. Okay, or let's say you can bring the bishop over there. Okay, and it says check to the white king. Okay, so I can do that. You can also, let's say this pawn wasn't there, so you can bring the rook over there. So I can say check. Okay, right. Or let's say this pawn wasn't over there, the black pawn wasn't over there. The queen turned to move, the black turned to move. The queen comes all the way in there. How can you actually check the king? By actually being in that square, or in that square, or in that square. Okay, so you can actually say, let's say it comes over there and says check. Remember the queen can go in any direction, so it goes there and it says, I'm threatening you now, you're next to me, so it tells the white side, your white king is in check. Okay, by this black queen. Okay, so now, of course, the white side has kind of the three choices. It can actually take the queen. The king, because it's now move one square at a time, so it can actually, well, it got more than three choices. It can either escape from the check by moving out of the way of the queen's path, okay, by placing itself in there. It can't obviously move there because the queen can behave like a bishop, where it's diagonally still keeps the king in a check position. So that's, you can't do that. The king can't go over there because they're still in a check position. The king can't go over there because the queen now behaves like a rook and the king is in check position. Okay, so it can actually decide. It can't go over there, obviously. It can't go over there for the reason I explained. Okay, but it can decide to take this queen. There you are. So the queen is gone now. The threat of check is gone. Okay. Alternatively, the white piece can decide to take the queen with this pawn, because remember, the pawn takes a piece diagonally, captures a piece diagonally. So you can take it with that piece, or you can take the queen with that piece. Now the queen is not there any longer, so the king is not threatened. It's not in check position anymore. Okay, so that's how it's come out of the check position. So can you see that? Okay, that's how it's actually is done. So putting all of this back. So that's how actually check actually happens.